Hello everyone and welcome to Clarity 16.1.1 Supportability and Feature Training. I am Vib Mehrotra, and as part of this section we will be talking about the mobile app updates. So with the release of mobile app 3.2.0, we are making the following enhancements to the app. The mobile app will now support the ability to respond to action items. They can respond to action items that is either process-based as well as blueprint rules-based action items. In addition, we are also adding the capability to enter notes at the timesheet level. There was another release of the app made earlier, which was version 3.1.3 that had few customer reported defects, specifically the SSO login, which would during the SSO login the customers would randomly see the modern UX page. And the second was in regards to access right, that if a user that logged into the mobile app and did not have time entry access right, then the user was seeing an error message. Both of those defects were fixed in the mobile app that is available in the marketplace, version 3.1.3. The reason this is important for our customers is because customers have been using action items in Clarity for years. They have been using those in the classic UI, and then recently we released the action items in the modern UX. And in the 16.1.1 we released the action item workspace. But customers still want the capability to be able to respond to action items on the go, and having this capability in the mobile app will give them just that functionality. The customers also ask the capability to be able to enter notes at the timesheet level, and this version of the mobile app will provide that capability to them. The new version of the mobile app is going to be 3.2.0, which will contain the new enhancements we talked about. The new enhancements are essentially the ability to respond to action items as well as be able to populate notes at the timesheet level. The new functionality will provide the action item dashboard to display action items based on received date and their status. The user can quickly access pre-filtered action item using this dashboard, as well as act on the most recent 10 action items that they received. The user can click on any one of those action items, act on those action items, as well as see the history of those action items as needed. For notes, the user will have the capability to review the notes that have been populated as well as manage them, which means edit, delete, or enter new notes. Just like the other functionality that was introduced in the mobile app, this functionality will also have a new access right that will be available on the Clarity server. This access right will only be available starting Clarity 16.1.1, and this access right will allow the user to see a new menu action in the mobile app. Without this access right, the user will only see the existing menu items, which is the My Timesheet and Review and Approve timesheets. The app version 3.2.0 will continue to work with the older version of Clarity. However, the users will not see this new action item without the access right. Navigating to the action item menu, the user will land on a dashboard. It's the action item dashboard, and the action item dashboard will basically display three sections of information. The top section is where the user will see three tiles as open, pending, and closed. The open will list all the action item assigned to the logged in user with the status of open. Pending will take the user to view all the action items that are assigned to the user with the status of pending, and closed will list out all the action items that the was assigned to the user and the user has already acted on it, and the status of those action item is closed. In the middle of the dashboard, the user will see two tiles. The first will be received this week. This tile, when touching on, will take the user to the list of action items that are assigned to the user with the status of open and was received by the user in this current calendar week. The second tile is received last week, which would take the user to the list of action items that are open, assigned to the user, and were received in the previous calendar week. There will also be a matrix that will display indicating how many action items were received in a percentage comparison to the previous week. So this week will give a comparison between the current week and the previous week, and the received last week will do a comparison of last week with the week prior to that. And finally, at the bottom of the dashboard will be a list of most recent action items up to 10, which means if the user has more than 10, that list would only show 10 action items. The user can slide left or right to review those action items, as well as touch on any one of those action items to open it up and then act on those specific action item. Touching on any one of the tile within the dashboard will take the user to the list page that would be pre-filtered data based on what the user touched on. In this example, I touched on the open action item and I'm taken to a page where I see only my open action items. All the cards will be laid out one on top of the other with the most recent one on top. The header of the page will indicate and tell me which action did I select from the dashboard. In this example, again, it is open. Right underneath the header, I can see the search bar. I can essentially search for my action item using the search bar. By typing a value in the search bar, it'll search for any action item where either the subject or the description will match to what I am typing. The card below that will display the action item, which will have the action item subject, its object, where it came from, along with its status and its priority. The user will also have the option to filter using the additional filter and sorting option. The card specifically will display the subject, description, object and its name, status, priority, as well as the priority color. The page will support infinite scroll, which means the user can, if the user has multiple cards, they can keep scrolling down and additional action item cards will be displayed accordingly. The search bar, as I mentioned, allows the user to quickly search for any specific action items. The search will use subject and description to find the matching criteria. Clicking or touching on the filter icon will take the user to the filter page where the following things can be done. The user can change the sort order from instead of the newest first to either the new first, old first, or based on the subject alphabetically. The user can filter based on status, received time frame, or priority. The received time frame will allow the user to filter for action item based on either the last 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, 60 days, or any time. And the priority is multi-select, similar to the status filter, so the user has the option to view action items based on multiple status or multiple priority. Once the user has selected a specific filter criteria, going back to the action item list page, a counter will be displayed on top of the filtered icon indicating how many filters have been applied to display the specific data. The search bar will work in conjunction with the filtered or the advanced filter option, which means if I type a value in the search bar and then I also go into the advanced filter and filter for specific either status or priority, we will honor both of those together to display the list of cards in there. In addition, when a filter is applied, we do change the header of that specific page to say filtered to indicate to the user that they are no longer looking at either open or close based on what they selected in the dashboard, but are now looking at filtered data. The mobile app also supports the refresh capability. Anywhere within the mobile app, the user can just swipe down, which will then essentially refresh the data that is displayed on their user screen. This capability is available in the dashboard as well as in the action item list page. Touching on any one of the action item will open that specific action item up, and the following data will be displayed in that action item. The user will be able to see the subject, description, object and its name, as well as their priority. The user will also have the option to view the action item history. The user can act on any one of those action items by touching on the actions that are available to them. The actions will be displayed in 2 by 2, and if you have an odd number of action available, then the last action will be displayed in the middle of the screen, essentially centralizing it. The submit button will be grayed out till the user touches on a specific action, at which point then the submit button will be enabled and the user can submit the action for that action item. Touching on the view history will take the user to the history page where the user can see the details or historical information for that specific action item. The history page will display the date and time when the specific action item was initiated. It'll display the initiated process or user. The process will be the name of the process that triggered the action item to the user, and if the action item was triggered based on a business rule, then the name of the user will be displayed right there. Right below it will be the list of how many recipients have received the specific action item along with their information. The user that have received this, or essentially the assignees, will have their name, avatar, and their email address displayed. The email address is hyperlinkable, which means the user can touch on the email address and the default email client will open up to allow the user to contact that specific assignee for any direct communication. At a time, we will only display up to 5 assignees. However, there will be a See More button which will allow the user to see any additional assignees that might have received this specific action item. Action taken by the assignee along with the action date will also be displayed at the bottom of the history page. To act on an action item, it is straightforward where the user can touch to open any action item and review the actions available. The submit button is grayed out till the user touches on the action they want to take. After touching on the action, the submit button is enabled and then the user can submit that specific action. Once doing so, a toast message is displayed on the screen where the user will be notified that the status of that action item changed from the previous status to the new status. As in my example, it changed from open to approved. The user also has the capability to view any action items that they have acted on but is now pending on others to take action on. Those action items is available for the user to make any necessary changes if they choose to do so, which is similar to what they can do in the UX. The user can review the action that they took on that action item or change their previously taken action to another action and submit that accordingly. The user can also see the view history to see who else is this specific action item waiting on to go to completion. We also have closed action item available. Navigating to a closed action item in the mobile app will take the user and display the action item information along with just the action they took. The user will not see any other actions that were available or have the option to make any changes to their actions. Only their previously taken actions is displayed. The user can also click on the view history to see the date and time as well as who took the action against that specific action item. We have added the capability to add timesheet level notes using the mobile app. In the previous versions of the app, the user could always add the task level notes, but now the user can add timesheet level notes also. This is done so by going into my timesheet and opening a specific timesheet, and using the floating icon at the bottom, the user can touch on it to either submit that timesheet, add work, or now the new option to add notes. The notes going into the notes will display all the notes that might have been entered against that timesheet, as well as the user can enter any new timesheet. Any notes entered against a specific timesheet is also available under the review and approved timesheet section. To manage the timesheet notes, essentially the user will go to a specific timesheet. Using the floating menu, they can see the new notes option available. If there is a previously entered note for that specific timesheet, then a counter will also be displayed indicating how many notes exist against that timesheet. Touching on that notes will open up the notes page where the user can type their specific notes to add a new note. The post button for that specific notes will not for the specific notes page will not be enabled till the user enters a value under the add note. The user also has the option to review the notes that they've entered, and if they want to make any changes, they can use the swipe option to swipe from right to left to see the available context sensitive menus for that specific note. In this case, the user will have the option to either edit or delete their own note. The user cannot edit or delete notes entered by any other user. If the user does try to delete a note, there is a confirmation message just to avoid any accidental deletion, and the user will have to then confirm their delete action in order to proceed with deleting of their own note. The reviewers also have the option to see the timesheet notes by going into the review and approved. Essentially, when the user goes into the review and approved and opens a specific timesheet, there is a new icon on the top right of the screen. This is the notes icon, which will also have a counter indicating if there is a note that has previously been added to that timesheet. The user can touch on that icon to review the previously entered notes or to add their own note. The note will basically have the avatar of the user name, and when that user added that specific note to that timesheet. The user will also have the option to manage their own note, which is essentially using the swipe option. The user can swipe right to left, which will then enable the edit or delete option. The user can edit their own note or delete their own note. All right, with that, let's see the product in action. So here I am in the latest version of the mobile app. After logging in, the user does land onto my timesheets, but if the user has the appropriate access right, then they will see this new menu option available called Action Items. By touching on that, the user will be taken to the new Action Item dashboard. As mentioned, on the top part of this dashboard are the three tiles indicating the open, pending, and closed, and there is a counter for each one of those, letting me know how many action items are either open, pending, or closed for me. The middle section has the action items that were either received this week or action item received last week. These are action items that are received for those specific time frame and are still in the open status, and a percentage indicates how many of those have been more or less compared to the week prior. And finally, at the bottom, I have my list of top 10 recently received action items. I also have the bubbles at the bottom indicating how many of these or which specific one am I looking at, and I can easily swipe to see all the ones that are available in this top 10 list. So I can swipe left or right, or I can touch on any one of those specific bubble to quickly jump onto that specific action item. As you can see in this, I have a total of 11 open action items. Out of that 11, only 9 was received this week. And out of all of those 11, the top 10 most recently received ones are listed right here. I can touch on any one of these to quickly get to it, or I can use the tiles above here to basically get to my specific action items. If I touch on the received this week, I get a list of all the action items that were received this week. The list page, the header as mentioned, will tell me that what I touched on. In this case, I touched on received this week. I have the cards displaying the specific action items where there is the subject, the object that this action item was against, and then the description along with its status and priority. The color of the priority is displayed at the card as well as the displaying of the priority itself. I can go back out and I can go to my open, and now this will give me a list of all my open action items that are assigned to me, and again the header tells me that this is I'm looking at the open. If I want to act on a specific action item, I can easily filter for those by doing a quick search. So let's say I want to find all the action items related to GDPR. Typing that information gives me only those action items where GDPR as a word is available in either the subject or the description. So I can see there is one for risk. There are 2 specific projects that are listed in here. But let's say if I wanted to filter for more and maybe I want to just find the high priority one, I can do so now by using the advanced filter option by clicking on it right here. So if I touch on that, it takes me to the filter page, and the first thing I see is the option to sort. I can either sort by the newest first, oldest, or by subject alphabetically. I can go to the status, and in this case you can see because I am in the open action item page, the open is already selected. Under the time frame, I see the option that I can see anything in the last 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, or all time. So in this case, I want to keep it at all time, which means any of those. And I can then filter for specific priority, which is open, medium, or high. So maybe since I only want to look at high, and I also want to see maybe if there is any pending that is also of a high status. So I can select multiple of those options. I can click on apply, and now I see GDPR. So it retained my text that I typed earlier, and as well as my advanced filter. So I applied 3 filter, which is the 2 status and 1 priority. So 3 is what I applied, and I get that specific card that I can look at. I can touch on that specific card, which will open the card up for me, and then I get the details of my specific card, such as the priority, the subject of that specific action item, the object, as well as the full description that is available. The actions that are available to me are listed as buttons right here, and the summit is grayed out till I select one of these 2 actions. I can also look at the view history to see the historical information for this specific action item, and I can see that in this case this action item was initiated on February 23rd. It was triggered as a process, and that's the process name that triggered it for me, and this action item went to 15 recipients. I see the first 5 listed right here along with their avatars, name, and email address. I can touch on any one of their email address, which will then essentially take me to my email client that is the default on my mobile app. Or I can come back and I can see the names of the other 10 recipients by touching on see more. And now the other recipients, we show it 5 at a time, so I'll have to do it 2 times to get to seeing all 15 of them. At the bottom I can see that nobody has acted on this specific action item. I can go back and I can act on this specific action item by just essentially touching on the action and then submitting it. Doing so, I get the action item change status available to me, and in this case, because this action item went to the pending state and I had applied the filter for pending, I can still see it. But if I remove this saying I don't want to see pending anymore, then there are no action available for GDPR. The next, I want to go and look at the blueprint based action item. So for that, I'm going to go into my Clarity application. In my Clarity application, let me first show you the new access right that is available. That access right can be seen by going into the administration, and under the license information I can see it right under the license. I can type and that is the new access right that is required in order for me to see action items in the mobile app. Next, I'm going to go into the modern UX and I'm going to go to the blueprints area for modern UX administration. I'm going to go to my project blueprint and I'm going to go to the project major blueprint. In here I have defined a rule which is the new functionality introduced in 16.1.1. There is a separate training that covers how these can be set up, but I have defined a new rule to send action item. The rule says that if the specific project status changes to on hold, send an action item to the specific list of users. Again, as I mentioned, there is a separate training that will cover in detail how to set all of this up. I am just showing how this functionality can be leveraged in the mobile app. So I see that this rule is set up and is active. I can go to a specific project. In this case, I'm going to a project related to M&A work stream. I see this project is requested, but we do not have the funding to work on this work stream at this point. So I'm going to put this specific project on hold. Doing so will kick off the blueprint rules based action item, and actions will be sent to the user themselves, which I can check by going right here to my action items, and I see that there is a new one that is initiated and it is sent to the user that is logged into the that has been assigned to that specific action item. If I go into my mobile app, let's go back out to my main screen. I can pull down to refresh, and I see that there are action items that is there, and the most recent one is the one related to the integration M&A being put on hold. So the most recent one has appeared in my dashboard at the bottom. The same will be available under open, so I can either just act on it directly from right here, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to touch on my action item. It opens it up for me. I can click on done and I can then submit. So I've now quickly acted. It takes me to display the next one that was received. My counters went down accordingly. So all those action items are being acted on. I can go into the closed, and within the closed I can see the most recent that I just acted on. I can touch on that. I can see that the action items that in this case I acted, my option that I taken was done, so that was my selection. And if I go into the view history, I can see that I am the one that acted on it, and now this specific action item is closed just a few seconds ago. If I go back to the app and I do a navigational refresh, I can see the same information that this action item is now closed. This was acted on by me, and these are the other recipients for this specific action item. I can go back out and I can go to the dashboard, and let's look at the pending. I see that there are 3 pending action items going in there. I see which those specific 3 pending action items are. I can touch on it and I can see for any pending action item the action I took as well as the other available actions that are there. In this example, you can see that I have odd number of actions available to me. So the last one is listed in the middle of the screen in the center. I can click on the view history to see that this action item was sent to 2 recipients, that was me and Alex, and I have acted on it and Alex still needs to act on it. So I can receive all of that information now within the mobile app itself. Next, let's go ahead and log in as another user where I can look at the timesheet notes functionality. So I'm going to log in as Dana. And logging in as Dana, I am in the My Timesheet area, and in here I can see the timesheets that are either submitted or available to me. I can go into the current time period. The timesheet has been populated, but maybe I now want to populate any notes. So going into the floating icon or the floating menu, I see that there is a new option available to me called notes, and there is a counter. That means I have already populated a note for my timesheet. I can touch on that, and that will essentially take me to the notes page for that specific timesheet. At this point, I can see the previously populated note, or I can just enter any new note by just typing in here. Once I start typing, I can post it. But I don't want to type my note. Maybe I just want to edit the current note because I realize that there are multiple closure documentation that I need to supply. So I want to just correct this grammar, and I can do that by just doing a swipe, and the swipe will now give me the option to either edit or delete. So I'm just going to touch on edit, and I'm going to make this as documentations to be grammatically correct, and then I'm just going to post that note, and now that has been posted right there. Next, I'm going to go back out, and maybe I'm ready to submit this. So I can do this by essentially going in and submit my timesheet. Once done so, since I'm also a review and approver, I can go into the review and approve. I can see all the timesheets that have been submitted for either the current period or previous period. So in this case, I'm going to go to the previous period, and I see that there are 3 timesheets submitted. There's one by Ian and the other one by Tom. So let's look at Tom's timesheet first. I can touch on that. When I go into reviewing Tom's timesheet, it's the same screen that we've had for being able to quickly approve a timesheet, but now there is this new icon on the top right that indicates if there are any timesheet level notes. There is also a counter right here that indicates that yes, in this specific case, there are 3 notes that have been added. I can touch on that. It'll take me to the notes, and I can see specifically there is a note added by Tom, Ian, as well as myself. If I try to edit or delete anybody else's note, I cannot. I do not have that option. However, I can edit or delete my own. So maybe I want to delete my specific note. By doing so, it does give me that confirmation saying that am I sure that I really want to delete my note? Yes, I do. So I will confirm that, and that note is removed. I can go back out, and maybe I can just use the quick navigation to see another timesheet, and I see Ian's timesheet that he's only submitted 20 hours, even though it's supposed to be 40 hours. So I can see that there is no notes added by Ian as to why he did that. I can touch on it. There are no notes here. I can then go ahead and add a note. Asking Tom to specify the reason why he did not enter 40 hours. I can post that note to him. I can go back, and then I can just return his timesheet because he did not have sufficient information in his timesheet. And that concludes the demo regarding the mobile application.